This here is my '84 Honda Magna V30, and it's having some issues with the carburetors, and I looked all over online trying to find a video on how to take them out because Honda decided to make this one so nobody could work on it, and I didn't find anything, so I thought while trying I would make my own video. And you can see on mine that I already took the seat off, and if you can't figure out how to do that, you should probably just take this in someplace else. So I got the seat off. Then what I did next is I took the bolts off for the gas tank. There's one on each side. After that, the gas tank lifts right up. This is easier if you don't have a lot of gas in it. Took a bungee cord from the handle on the back and hold the gas tank up in place. The other thing you'll notice is I took as many plastics off as I could. Just kind of makes things easier to get out of the way. So you may want to do that before you get started. Now the next thing I did, just to make a little bit more room for myself, was pulled the spark plugs on both sides of the back two spark plugs and unbolted the starter here. It was just bolted in like that, and take the screw out, and this whole piece here just slides out. I set it on top to make a little bit more room. Next thing is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 screws that I took off the air box. Keep in mind as you're doing this, I don't know if this is how it's supposed to be done, but the real thing that made this whole motorcycle difficult to work on is this bar here leaves you no room to get anything off. So most of what I'm doing next is shear muscle. So now that the top of your air box is free, just gotta work it down, and it's just required a lot of bending and flexing, and I got the bigger hammer. I'm gonna take well, normally I would take a hammer, but for time's sake and me not being able to find it, I'm gonna use a nice little wrench here. Just something with some weight that can hit the top of the air filter box off of the air filter. Just gotta bend it, slide it down. I got it a little bit farther. This is the hardest part of the whole thing. There we go. Just pop it out one of the sides. Woo! That's the tough part. Now that top piece really isn't fragile. I beat on it quite hard. Next thing I'm going to do is the airbox here is split in half. There's the part that's on the carburetor and the part that has the air intake. And there's a seal, this red seal all the way around it, and I'm just going to scrape all that off. Break that free. We're going to take the carburetor, the airbox out in two pieces. Just because, like I said, there's not much room with this stupid bar here. Once you see the crease in there, stick a little tiny screwdriver in there and you'll be able to lift up and get the rest of that gasket off of there. Go ahead and do that on both sides. Now once you get that off of all the sides, the whole top of the air box there and the air filter should just slide right out. Set that aside. Now I'm going to get the rest of this gasket material off of the top of the carburetors. Next thing we're going to do is head on over to the petcock here, right underneath the battery. And we're going to turn the gas from the on position to the off position, like mine is. Now we're going to come back over here to one of the fuel lines in the motorcycle. I'm going to disconnect this guy here, pull the hose off, so that way the only thing holding the carburetor down is the throttle cables, the choke cable, and the boots. You may get a little bit of gas out of there, but it won't last long as you turn the gas off. So that'll be fine. Next thing we're going to do is there's 4 boots to each carburetor. You got one right there, one right there, and then one on each side of the other side of the bike. So 4 total. We're going to unscrew those with a screwdriver and pull them apart. So on the right side of the bike, we've got 1 hose clamp, 2 hose clamps on one of the boots right here, and got another one right here. They're hard to see, it's all dark. I don't have a well lit garage, but let me see if I can. Okay, so I decided to get a light so that both I and you could see better. So we got our hose clamps right here. Just got to unscrew those and loosen them up until they move a little bit like that. I got 2 of them in mine. And I got 2 more over here. And back over to the other side where I got another 2 hose clamps there for the boot, and 2 more hose clamps in there. And once I take all that off, this whole piece here Should just lift right out. I'm sure it's not going to be as easy as it sounds. So now that I got all those hose clamps off the boots, well, not off the boots, but loosened from the boots, I'm going to try to lift the whole carburetor out. I'm going to put a piece of cloth up here so that when I lift it up it doesn't bash against the metal and dent the seal on the airbox. You may find as you go you have to loosen the boots a little bit more. Use a flathead to carefully pry that boot away from the carburetor. Though you don't want to damage the boot at all because you need a good seal there when you go to put it back on. So you gotta be real gentle about that. There we go. Now we gotta get the other side. So now on to the other side. I'm going to loosen up these hose clamps again. Just got to take this whole thing and wiggle it out of the boots. I'm going to try a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver on the boots again. Just going to kind of pry them away a little bit, but not too hard because I don't want to damage them. Now I just got this front boot left. And my carburetor is free. Look at that. Next is what I'm going to do is pull the whole thing out. And you got your throttle cables here and your choke cable there. When I pull the whole thing out, got to disconnect those cables, and then taking the carburetors out is done. Lift it up, the whole thing pulls out like this. The choke cable is easy. That one just pops right out. And the two I need a screwdriver and some wrenches for. So I got here, there's the choke cable that I've already pulled out. You just got to undo this screw here, pull the choke cable right off. So I got that choke cable off. I'm going to take the whole thing out, kind of flip it around like this, so that you can see the two throttle cables. You got the top and the bottom one right there. And I'm going to unscrew those. You pop them out of the little holes right here. Right there. And oh, you're getting a little bit of gas out of this, but it's alright. It's just going to leak a little bit from whatever was sitting in there. So, I'm going to take a couple of wrenches, loosen this guy here and this guy here, and that should give me enough slack to pop that right out of the, pop this guy, pull the cord right around so you can slide it straight out. So once you loosen this bolt and this bolt up enough, you can slide it right out of there. You grab the cord, a little slack, and it should pop right out just like that. And now I like to label these. I'm going to label this one front. I'm going to label the one I just took out as front, and the one that comes out here goes all the way around out back. You can see that cord right there, and comes to this right here. Comes out the exact same way, but it's kind of tucked away in back, so I label that one back with some tape. That way I don't get them mixed up when I'm putting them back on. So I got the second one here, and once I loosen that up, it came right free. So it's free now, and you can see how it feeds right down through the back there. And this is where you're going to get the slack. It's right here. So if you can feed the slack through so that this cable starts to pop out. Sometimes you can grab it with a screwdriver or a pair of needle nose pliers. And so I just got that cable right there to pop free, and the whole thing's just going to come out just like the other one. So now, once that lets go, the whole carburetor is free. Like I said, I'm dripping out a little bit more gas, but that's just from what was sitting inside there. And voila, your carburetor is no longer on your motorcycle. So we're going to set that aside. You got the 3 cables here. This one, the shortest one there, I'm going to tuck over to the back side of the motorcycle, just so I know that's my choke cable. I got one tucked away up here. Just find a place to tuck it on top. That's how I know it's in front. And the one I'm going to leave loose here is the one that went through the middle. Now the only other thing you're going to want to do is get some rags and put rags inside each of these boots. That way you don't get dust or, you know, I got a lot of sawdust in here. I don't want that getting in there. You want to keep those pretty clean. So that was the removal of carburetors from my Honda Magna V30. Not going to tell you that that's the way it's supposed to get done or the most professional way, but I took it apart once. This is my second time taking it apart, and when I put it back together earlier, it ran just fine, so I'm thinking that it's an okay way to do it. I'm going to send those guys out to get cleaned, and I will post a video on putting them back in once I get them back. Thanks for watching. So one last thing, these are the paper towels that I just stuffed in each of the boots so that way nothing falls in them. And I decided to label my 3 cables that I've got. I got the scrap paper and I just wrote front, inside, and choke for the front cable, the inside cable, and the choke cable, and fed them through that paper, so they're all gonna be nice and labeled when I come back to do it in probably a week.